well, not a little bit, we're talking a lot about filling out the FAFSA. So what is the pre-application for student aid? This is really the first step in the financial aid process, where it's trying to determine the ability of the family to pay for college. That's the key thing. It's going to ask a whole bunch of questions. We're going to go through a lot of these questions so you have a little bit of understanding of how to answer them and make sure you answer them properly. But in reality, this is what the colleges use to determine what is the need of the students to pay for college and what financial needs they may have. Now, we need to step back and understand what the FAFSA is. The FAFSA is basically a snapshot of, at the time and moment that the FAFSA is completed, of the money coming into the household and the money leaving the household, okay? Because we have to understand that the Department of Education, their philosophy is that the student is primarily responsible to pay for their education. So it's the student, right? Now, they understand that the parents will probably contribute some money towards the child's education, so they're going to ask questions not only from the students, but in some cases from the parents, either both of them or one of the parents, to determine what is the ability of the family to pay for college. The students will fill out this FAFSA after October 1st of the student's senior year. So for those, I imagine all you parents are parents of seniors, so the FAFSA has become available. You always fill out the FAFSA for the year that the student will be in college. And this form is done every year. Why is it done every year? Because the financial situation of the family may change from one year to the next. The income may go up, may go down. You may have more people in college or multiple students in college. You may have more people in the household. There's a number of different factors, but the FAFSA is done every single year. I tell people, get it done by Thanksgiving. All right, that's not the deadline. You have plenty of time to fill it out. But I tell them get it done by Thanksgiving because once Thanksgiving rolls around, people get distracted with, getting together and eating, going shopping, then you got Christmas, then you got New Year's. Before you know it, it's the middle of January and the FAFSA is not done. All right? So if you get it done between October 1st and Thanksgiving, that's a really good time frame to do it. Now, you don't get extra money if you get it October 1st versus November 1st. That's not the point. The point is trying to figure out what is the need of the family to pay for college. Now, the state money, the MAP grant, which can only be used in colleges in the state of Illinois, that money does run out. Last year, we ran out in April, okay? But, that's one point. You had October, November, December, January, February, March, April, like 7 months to fill out the FAFSA for the state money ran out. All right, the federal money usually it hardly ever runs out. Oh, and one more thing, you need to check with the colleges to see if they have an internal deadline, because sometimes the colleges say get it done by March 1st, March 15th, February 15th, because they want to consider you for their institutional money, because they'll have a pool of money from the college that once it's gone, it's gone. All right. So getting it done by Thanksgiving is usually the most ideal situation and takes care of pretty much everything. So what do you need? The student needs his or her social security number, and then we need records of income and assets of the student and of the parent. And we're going to go through the questions about that. And we'll talk about all the investments and what's included and what needs to be excluded, because we also want to make sure you don't include things that are not supposed to be taken into account. Hopefully everyone created an FAFSA ID. An FAFSA ID is someone's electronic signature, because the student will sign the FAFSA and then one of the parents will also sign the FAFSA, basically saying everything is true, okay? The FAFSA ID is also the method by which the students and or the parents will be able to pull their IRS data, or basically the data submitted in the tax return, and populate the FAFSA with the questions that ask specifically about tax return information. So it's used for those two functions at this time and moment. Later on, you use the FAFSA ID for other things, but for the time and moment, the FAFSA ID is a key thing. Parents, if you have multiple kids in college, you use the same FAFSA ID to sign multiple FAFSAs, okay? The student has one, the parent has one. You cannot use the same email address for both, because each one has to have their unique email address. Students, make sure you use an email address that does not expire, so don't use your school email address, okay? Also make sure it's professional, because the college will see what your email address is, all right? All right, so where do you start? You go to FAFSA.gov, and you start right there where it says, I can't. Where it says, my finger doesn't work. My pointer doesn't work, it's that screen. You start where it says start here. Okay, the very first time you start here. After that, once you start a FAFSA, you go where it says log in, all right? The first time you do the FAFSA is going to take you to log, all right, because you have to answer every single question for the most part. Subsequent times that you do a FAFSA, you'll be able to renew the information. If you just click renew the FAFSA, all the information from the previous FAFSA, the demographic information will be pulled and transferred over to a new FAFSA. So it's going to be faster, okay? There's two ways by which you can start the FAFSA. You can either start it by saying I am a student, or I am a parent, preparer, or student from a well, it's either going to be you, the student, or the parent, all right? If it says, I am the student, it's going to ask you for your FSA 80, the student's FSA 80, all right? So you have to have the student there, or know what the student's FSA 80 is, all right? If you don't, then click and say, I am the parent, and then you just enter the student's name, Social Security number, and date of birth, all right? It's critically important that the Social Security number is entered correctly for the student. That is the hardest part to change on the FAFSA, student's Social Security number, because once you enter it once, it gets grayed out. All right, you're not going to be able to go back in there and make that change. So double check, triple check that Social Security number. Also, parents, if you're doing the FAFSA and you put your name and your Social Security number there, that means you as a parent are applying for financial aid. All right, so be aware of that. You always fill out the FAFSA for the year that the student will be in college. So currently right now we have the 1920 FAFSA, which is for this current academic year, and the 2021 FAFSA. That will be for next year. So students who are seniors in high school right now are going to fill out the 2020, 2021 FAFSA for next year, okay? Too many times I've seen students fill out the wrong year, all right? So be aware of that. The save key, this could be whatever you want. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4 if you wanted to. It could be whatever. This is to go back to that same iteration of the FAFSA that you started. So if the parents start the FAFSA or the student starts the FAFSA, for some reason they stop and or they can't complete it or they don't have the parents' information, the parents can go back, log in as the parent, and then enter the save key that was used to pull that same iteration of the FAFSA up, okay? So you don't lose any information. Always be aware what section you're going to be in. It'll say in the upper left-hand corner, student information or parent information, okay? And that's another common error that I see. Always use the next or previous buttons at the bottom, because if you use your backwards or forward browser buttons, you get kicked off the FAFSA, okay? And then you have to log back in. With the last name, if for some reason the last name does not fit in the FAFSA, do not abbreviate, do not truncate. And this is the name as it appears on the Social Security card, all right? So no nicknames, okay? It has to be exact, and Social Security has to be exact. Date of birth has to, double check all these things to make sure that is correct. This is the student enters the email address, and the email address that the students use will be the email address by which the Financial Aid Department or Department of Education is going to communicate with the students, and by which the colleges will also communicate with the students. And then also this is where the summary of the information, which is called the Student Aid Report, is going to be sent directly to the student. So once again, make sure it's an email address that does not expire. The address that we use, once again, for the students, this is the permanent mailing address of the student. So in many cases, I know the students live here at school, but you may want to use the parent's home domicile as the permanent address in case there's any other communication that's sent down there later on. Now, this is also what's used to determine eligibility for the MAP grant, because the MAP grant is only for people for students who have Illinois residency. We determine residency for students based on where the parents live. So assuming all the parents live in Illinois, they qualify for the MAP grant. If the parents live outside Illinois, the student's not eligible for the MAP grant. It does say, what is, have you lived in Illinois for the last 5 years? This is a federal form. I don't know why they pick 5 years. They do pick 5 years. If you say no, it's going to ask you, when did you move to the state of Illinois? But for all intents and purposes, the day the parent makes Illinois their permanent domicile, that day is when the student qualifies for the MAP grant, all right? So be aware of that. Now, if the student is not a U.S. citizen or a U.S. permanent resident or an eligible non-citizen, they really need to talk to the college to figure out how they should be applying for financial aid instead of filling out the FAFSA. Okay, students have deferred action for childhood arrival. If we have any students, have them talk to me and we can guide them, but they really should not be filling out this form. With the, you're going to get quite, and you also, one more thing, you notice at the top, the students, hopefully you can read it in the back, student demographics, school selection, dependency status, parent demographics, et cetera. Those are the different tabs. And as we go through the tabs right now, there's a pencil mark there. That means we're in that section. Once it's finished, there'll be a check mark there, okay? We're going to ask about the high school completion status of the students, what college degree or certificate they will be working on, and when you have finished your first bachelor's degree in the upcoming school year, okay? And what will your college grade level be when you begin the 2020-2021 year, okay? Sometimes students need to be careful with this, because if they say if they're not looking for their first degree, they'll be considered a graduate student, and it creates all kinds of havoc. So please read those questions very carefully The question at the bottom says, are you interested in being considered for work study? Work study is a specific type of financial aid in which the student actually applies for a job on campus, gets hired, and gets paid. But the thing is that only students that have the work study designation are eligible to apply for those positions, because 3/4 of the salary that's paid to the student is paid from the Department of Education funds, and 1/4 is paid from the university fund. So it's cheaper for universities to hire a work study student, and the only way to get a work study designation is to say yes to this question. Are you interested in being considered for work study? If you say no or don't know, you're not going to get it, okay, because they're going to run out of money, all right? If you say yes to get out for work study, do you have to get a job on campus? No, you don't. You still have to, you have to apply for it. But if you don't utilize work study, if it was offered to the student for their freshman year in college, but they don't utilize it for the sophomore year, they probably will not be offered work study, because there's probably other students that, there may have been a waiting list for that. So just say yes, and you'll be okay. The question about the gender, this is the gender assigned at birth, okay? So male or female. Now, if the student says male, they're going to get a question about have you registered with Selective Service. Selective Service, and I have to tell some of the parents who aren't familiar with the way it works in the United States, in some countries it's obligatory that you have to serve in the military. In the United States, that is not the case. Okay, it's a volunteer army in the sense that you have to enlist. This is not enlisting. This is registering Selective Service. In case there's ever a draft, they would use that. So all males between the ages of 18 and 26 have to register for Selective Service. It's a federal law. If they do not register and they're in college, the financial aid stops. They don't get any financial aid. So if you don't know, well, first of all, the student doesn't know if they're registered for Selective Service. Typically, that means they haven't. All right, because it's you're very cognizant of doing it. So you say no, and then it says, would you like us to register for Selective Service? Say yes, and the FAFSA will automatically register the student for Selective Service, and you don't have to worry about it. The driver's license number, well, it's optional. If the students don't have a driver's license, they don't have to put it in there. This is another way to determine, the residency of the students, whether they're in Illinois or not. Then there's going to be some questions about youth in care or foster care. If the student was ever in foster care, they need to say yes, otherwise say no. The high school completion or the educational completion level of the parents, it's used sometimes by college to see if they have any programs for first-generation college students. All right, but if you leave this blank, that's not a problem either. This is where you enter the name of the high school, and you actually can do a name search. You enter the name of the school, the city of where the school is located, and the state. Click search, and you'll be able to see the Illinois Science Academy come up. You select it, and it'll be populated on the FAFSA itself. And then you search for colleges. You can either search them by name or by school code if you know the code. With the FAFSA, it takes into account all the information the parents can submit, crunches the numbers, says this is what we think your ability to pay for college is. In the FAFSA itself, the student gets a summary of that information, but in the FAFSA itself, the student can indicate up to 10 colleges to receive that information, right? And those 10 colleges will get that information. They will hold it and won't do anything with it until the student is actually admitted to that university, which means the student has to apply and be admitted. Once the student is admitted, then they pull the FAFSA information to compose that award letter that they mail to the student saying this is how you're going to pay for your education on our campus, okay? Now, what happens when the student has maybe 12 colleges that they want to receive the FAFSA information? You can only do 10. You do 10, you submit it, you wait for it to get processed, which takes maybe about 2 to 3 business days. Once it's processed, the student goes back in there, takes that college number 9 and number 10, and puts in number 11 and number 12, resubmits it, so now college 11 and 12 has the FAFSA information, okay? So that's how you can enter more colleges if needed. With the colleges, you have the ability to view more college info in case you haven't done that already, but it's going to ask you about what type of housing you're looking for. If you're going to live on campus, go live off campus, live with parents. This is so the colleges can do their packaging, because if you say you live on campus and they have residence halls, they'll take into account the cost of the residence hall. Otherwise, if you say you live with parents, they'll just assume that piece is taken care of and may not package you for housing on a particular campus. So if you don't know, just say on campus. Okay, doesn't mean you have to live on campus. It's just they're going to package students for that topic. What is your marriage status as of today? Remember, we're in student section, not the parent section, all right? So most students, I believe, they're in high school probably are single, so they do single. And that says, do you have or will have children who receive more than half the support from you between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021? Once again, this is still the student, all right? This is where I see a lot of parents thinking it's them, and they say yes to these questions, and now students considered independent because they have children they support, or they're married, but it's neither, all right? If at any time the student says yes to any of these questions, they may get asked for proof that they're actually able to financially support children. So sometimes students may be pregnant, you're going to have a kid, they say, I'm going to support my child, but really, where are they living? If they're living with the mom and dad, no, they're paying for everything, but it's not the student supporting the child, it's the parents. But most students will say no to these questions. Then these questions about, are you currently serving an active duty in the armed forces? Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? Anytime since you turn age 13, were both your parents deceased, were you in foster care, or were you dependent work with the court? As determined by court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? Does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by court in your state of legal residence? All these questions are asked to determine whether a student is considered independent or dependent. Okay? That's it. All right? The only way to be considered independent, a student to be independent, which means no parental information is required, would be if they're 24 years of age or older, and they figure that out after the student puts in their birth date, all right? If they're married, if they have a child, if they're a veteran, if they're pursuing a graduate degree, if they're in legal guardianship as determined by a court, if they're emancipated minors as determined by a court. If you say yes to any of those questions, parental information will not be required. If you say no to all of them, okay, oh, by the way, if you say yes to any of those, they may ask for proof of that court decision or proof of your military veteran status, your DD-214 form. They may ask those questions. Otherwise, you say none of the above, and then which means parental information will be required, all right? This piece about unaccompanied homeless youth, that's for people that are not in the presence of their parents who are homeless or at the risk of being homeless. In that case, a letter may be asked of those individuals, all right? Always get this question that says, well, actually, people don't really read it. They just look at the bullets and say, I will provide information about my parents. Then the other one below says, I am unable to provide information about my parents. Sometimes kids say, well, my parents not here at the workshop today, so I'm not able. No, that's not what it's asking. It's asking, are your parents no longer in the picture? Nowhere to be found. You have no contact with them. You don't know where they're at, and therefore you are unable to provide parental. That's what they're asking. Otherwise, it says, I will provide parental information, so parents' information will be asked, all right? In what cases will parental information not be required, even though the student can't say no or yes to any of those questions? Well, you know, the parents are incarcerated, both parents are incarcerated. They left home, students left home due to an abusive family environment, or a student doesn't know where the parents are and can't find them. Those are the only acceptable reasons if they can't say yes to any of the prior reasons. The unacceptable reasons would be, my parents don't want to provide information. That's not acceptable. My parents refuse to contribute to my college education, so they don't want to provide it. That's not acceptable. And, you know, as an aside, parents, if you don't want to pay for your kid's education, you don't have to. There's no law, federal law says you have to pay for your child's education. This is all on the student. Right? You're doing this out of the goodness of your heart because you're wonderful parents, okay? Your parents do not claim you to depend on their income taxes. That does not matter, okay? Who you claim as a dependent on your tax return does not affect how FAFSA is filed. All right. Now, who's the parent? All right? And bear with me. It's a biological, adoptive, or step-parent. That's it. No aunts or uncles, no grandparents, no godparents, no neighbors. Those are not parents. Only biological, adoptive, or step-parents. That's it. All right? Now, say the parents are separated or divorced. Okay, so my wife and I, you know, we have a child. Say my wife and I get divorced, right? Okay? My son lives with me. When the parents are separated or divorced, it's the parents with whom the student lived the longest in the last 12 months. That's it. With whom did they live the longest? It doesn't matter who claimed whom. It's with whom did they live the longest. Now, parents will sometimes say to me, Abel, it's exactly the same. 6 months with one, 6 months with the other. Okay, then the next question is, next criteria that first one can't be satisfied is, who provided the most financial support in the last 12 months? Sometimes the parents smile at me and say, but you won't believe it's exactly the same. 50% from me and 50% from the other one. All right, then the last criteria is, who has the highest income. And that's when the parent's like, oh, I just remember they lived longer with that person, all right? So it's always about with whom they live the longest. Now, say my son is living with me, I'm divorced from my wife, I have a girlfriend, right? It would still just be my information. If I married this girlfriend, it would be my information and the step-parent, regardless of what the step-parent wants to do, okay? That's how that works when the family is separated, all right? And then I get the question, but he claims him on, does not matter who claims whom on the tax return. It's about with whom they live the longest, okay? We may have questions about that later, all right? But that's okay. Then the questions are asked, let's talk about your parents. Were they never married? Or was the parent never married? Or are the parents unmarried but living together, okay? Or are they separated or divorced? Some of these parents are married, but for all intents and purposes, the marriage is over. Each one went their own way. In that case, it's the same as being divorced, okay? And then when they are divorced or separated, it's going to ask the month and year in which they were divorced or separated. Likewise, if they say were they married, the month and year in which they were married. And if it's just one parent, it's going to ask which parent's information you're going to provide, the father or the mother. All right. If the parent does not have a Social Security number, the parent will enter all zeros. I-10s are not to be used in the FAFSA. I-10s, they look like Social Security numbers, but the number 9, those are not to be used. You enter all zeros, parents don't have a Social Security number. If the parents have a Social Security number, make sure you double or triple check this, and your name and your date of birth, because what's going to happen is at the end when you sign it, this section will be matched up with what you put in your FSA ID. As to those things, that data demographic does not, if there's an inconsistency, the signature will be invalid. It'll say username or password error, okay? So I find this happens a lot, all right? It's going to have the parent's last name and the parent's first initial, just that, all right? For each one of them. And then for the parents, have you lived in Illinois for the last 5 years? This is not about residency, not about immigration status. It's all about where have you lived, It's going to ask also for the household size. So the top line says your parents. So in this case, we have 2 parents, all right? As you don't live with your parents. That you being the student who's filling out the FAFSA. Then it says, the next line says, do your parents other children, even if they do not live with you, parents, if your parents can provide more than half the support between July 1st, 2020 and through June 30, 2021, or these children can answer no to every dependency question, all right? So this is very important where the parents need to make sure they include all their kids, all right? And then the bottom one says, other people, if they now live with your parents provide more than half the support, and, so it's not an or, it's an and question, your parents will continue to provide more than half the support from July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2022. You enter all this because the Department of Education wants to figure out how many people are the parents supporting. If you have a really large household, that means you have less money to pay for college. If you have a small household, you have a little bit more money to pay for college. Then the last question says, how many people in your parents' household, as reported above, will be in college between next year, right? If you're lucky enough to have twins in college at the same time, congratulations. But that means you will not be able to provide the same support if you only had one in college. It's basically that support kind of divided between 2 kids, all right, or 3 kids. Parents, do not include yourself in that question, all right? Only the people in the household, excluding the parent. Now, it's going to ask you about have you completed the tax return. Now, most people have already done their taxes, all right? Some people may have got an extension. I think the extension deadline was like last week or early this week or something like that. So you already say already completed. If for some reason the parents haven't completed and they're supposed to complete it, they can say we'll file a tax return, all right? And some people say, well, I didn't make a lot of money. Well, theoretically, or not theoretically, but for 2018, if the parent made $12,000 or more and they're single, they have to file. If the parent's married, if they made $24,000 or more, they have to file a tax return. It's a law, all right? Now, what happens if someone doesn't file? Well, if they haven't filed, they can say, we'll file, we still need to enter the information about the income, and then the college will say, hey, you've been selected for verification, we want you to provide an IRS tax transcript, which is basically a summary of all the information you submitted on your tax return. And the only way to get that summary is to file a tax return, all right? So if you don't present that summary, the student will be stuck in the verification process and will not get financial aid. All right. Now, it's going to ask for the adjusted gross income. and then it's going to ask how much you make from working. Right? Those are separate questions. The adjusted gross income is one number, and oftentimes the money earned from working from both parents will add up to adjusted gross income. But sometimes parents have other income, such as income from, interest from a savings account or portfolio or stocks or dividends, things like that. That's why they ask for the question about how much you made from working. Now, there's going to be a question. This is new. It says you indicated you filed a 1040. Did your parents file Schedule 1? All right, because we have a whole bunch of schedules, right? If you don't have a Schedule 1 in your tax return, that means no, you didn't file it, all right? But if you file a Schedule 1, but it's just to report capital gains, unemployment compensation, educator expense, IRA deduction, student loan interest, you still say no to the question about did you file a Schedule 1, okay? If you don't know, then you say I don't know, all right? Because then it's going to ask you, if you say yes, say no, I didn't file Schedule 1, you won't see these next questions, all right? But if you say yes or don't know, you're going to see the next question says, as of today, is either of your parents a dislocated worker? Okay? That means someone that was laid off or lost their job or is a displaced homemaker, all right? If you don't know the answer to that or say no, then you get the next set of questions that says, in 2018 or 2019, in the last 2 years, that anybody in the household qualified for any of these federal means-tested programs, Medicaid, SNAP, WIG, TANF, free reduced lunch program, SSI, all right? Check all that apply. And this is for anybody in the household, right? If not, you just say none of the above, right? But if you don't answer this question right here and then, you may not see this question again. Now, most parents will have filed a tax return now, and depending on how they answer the question, they may get prompted to link to the IRS. Okay, so at the bottom it says link to IRS. I would recommend that you do that if you get that option. So you click on it, and what's going to happen is this is a link that's going to pop up. I didn't make a screenshot of that. It's going to ask you for the name of whoever information they're going to pull from the IRS, and you're going to have to populate the address, the state, and the city and the state and the zip code. Click submit, and then it's going to look up tax data and pull it. If it pulls it, then you have the option of transferring it or not transferring. If you transfer it, which I highly recommend that you do that, it's going to transfer all the income and tax information that is asked on the FAFSA, but you won't be able to see what's actually transferred. It'll just say transfer from IRS. And the reason I recommend that people do that is because it's considered to be verified. It means the college won't ask you any income and tax information. If you manually enter the information because you cannot use the IRS data retrieval tool, what's going to happen is the college is going to want verification of that income actually being what you earn, so they're going to ask for a tax transcript. That's why I recommend to the IRS data retrieval tool as possible. Okay? Now, one more thing about that is sometimes it doesn't work if the person attempting to retrieve the tax information, say there's two parents, the parent who is listed second in the tax return attempts to do it, sometimes it won't work. What I found is that whoever was listed first in the tax return, as they do it, they try to attempt to pull the information from IRS, it works like almost all the time. But sometimes, I don't know why, the person listed second in the tax return, if they try to pull that information, it won't work for them. So I'm not sure why that is. All right. Now, they're also going to ask for additional information because remember, they're looking at the money coming in and the money leaving the household. So they're looking at other information that people got, either that's untaxed income, like for example, this is untaxed portions of IRA distributions of pension plans. But it also has like combat pay, and then student college grants and scholarships reported to the IRS. But remember, this is still about the parent section, okay? Now, education credits. All right, American Opportunity Tax Credit and Lifetime Learning Tax Credit, if I can briefly. When parents say, hey, I'm not going to get anything because, or I didn't get anything because I make too much money. Well, there's something called the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and currently right now, if the family if they're married and has an adjusted gross income of $180,000 or less, they can qualify to receive a tax credit up to $2,500. And you do that when you do your tax return, all right? And then to ask you, did you get this tax credit? Because if you did, you want to report it because when they look at the income, whatever the tax credit was, they reduce that income by that amount. All right, so this is a good thing, all right? But for those students who are seniors in high school, the parents will not be able to do this because you don't have any kids in college, right? But if you have kids in college, make sure that you put either the American Opportunity Tax Credit if you receive it, or the Lifetime Learning Tax Credit. The Lifetime Learning Tax Credit, it has a lower income threshold, all right? And there's differences between who qualifies for which one. So talk to your tax preparer about that. Oh, one more thing. If you had a 401k or a pension plan rollover, it's critically important that you indicate that it was a rollover. Otherwise, it's going to count as income, and it's going to inflate your expected family contribution. And this will be the money you leave in the household. So, for example, child support your parents pay because of divorce and separation. And then it says forever work study and cooperative education programs. Unless the parents are in college, this will not be applicable. But I'll talk about how it's applicable in the student section in just a bit. All right. And then this is other income coming into the household, child support received for all children. But then it also says, the third one says payment to tax-deferred pension or retirement savings plan. So when you look at the W-2s in box 12A and 12D, or 12A to 12D, anything has code D, E, F, G, H, or S, you have to report those amounts. Do not report the double D. If it's a double D code, do not report that amount. I think that's more like for healthcare. Okay? And then if you have like a flexible spending account or a health savings account where you use pre-tax dollars to populate that account, you have to report them there. So that's income. That's not reported in other sections. Because remember, your adjusted gross income is all your taxable income. So the department says, okay, what's all your taxable income? Okay, let's see if there's any other income that wasn't taxed, and that's why these questions are asked. All right? And it says, as of today, not tomorrow, when you have to write bills or something, as of today, what is your parents' total current balance, cash, savings, and checking account? Some people say, well, what if I got $2,000 in my checking account? What if I take it out? Well, now it's cash, all right? So it's cash, checking, or saving, all right? There's something for the parents called an asset protection allowance. Based on your marital status and the age of the parent, a certain amount of your assets are protected. And that table varies from year to year because it's set by Congress. So, for example, I'm 50 years old, all right? And I'm married. My asset protection allowance is $6,300. So say I had $7,000 worth of assets, all right? They take $7,000, subtract my asset protection allowance of $6,300, and only look at $700, okay? And of that $700, they only look at 12%, which is what, $84, right? It's $84, that's it, all right? Students do not have an asset protection allowance, and when the FAFSA looks at student assets, they look at 20% of the student assets. It's a higher percentage, all right? What's the net worth of your parents' investments, including real estate? Not your parents' home. Do not report the home in which the parents live. You do not report the value of the home or the equity in the home in which you live. All right? Do not report the value of 401ks, IRAs, or pension plans. Do not report the value of those plans because those are retirement plans for the parent. Okay? If the parent has a family-owned business and they have 100 or fewer full-time employees, do not report that. Okay, those are excluded from the calculations of the ability to pay for college in the FAFSA. If your student is applying to a college that uses the CSS profile, like University of Chicago, Northwestern, Illinois Wesleyan, Lake Forest, Principia, I forget which one, Notre Dame, they will ask those questions, but that's only for institutional aid, okay, not a federal and state aid, all right? So be aware of that. The FAFSA is free. CSS profile is not free. CSS profile costs, I think, $25 for the 25 or 26 for the first school, and then like 15 or so for any subsequent school. All right. 529 plan. If the parents are the owners of the plan, you have to report them. I got a niece. I love my niece. When she was born, I only had one niece. I said, I'm going to start a 529 plan for my niece because I love her. Okay, she's good as a button. I can do that. I'm the uncle. I can do that. I can open a plan for whomever. All right. I have a son. I like my son too. He came after my niece, so I got a plan for my son. So I have two plans, one for my son and one for my niece. If my son was a senior in high school and my niece, I set a plan for my niece, and he was still at his FAFSA, I would have to report the value of the plan that I have for him and the plan that I have for her. Okay, why is that? Because as the owner, I can transfer the money to whomever I wish. Say my niece is ready to go to college, she's still at her FAFSA, she will not report the value of the plan that I have for her because I'm not the parent. Remember that when I asked who the parent was? I'm not the parent. So she does not report the value because if I don't like her decisions, I can give the money to whomever I wish. I can give it to my son. All right? My niece would only report the distributions from the plan once I actually give her money for college. And that's going to be another question. All right? So if you have 529 plans as parents, you have to report the value of those plans. But only the parents. If the grandparents have plans for your son or daughter, you don't report it because grandparents are not parents for purposes of FAFSA. Follow me? Okay, that's the most convoluted asset question that I get. All right. What is an asset? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, stocks, stock options, UTMAs, trust funds. Those are all considered assets. Okay. If you have a second property, so not the home in which you live, but you have a second property, you take the value of that property, subtract the debt to get the net worth of it. Okay, basically the equity in that home, and you report that. If you're upside down on it, if you owe more than it's worth, it's zero. Okay. All right, so then we get to the student section. All right, it says to the student, did you file a tax return? Most students don't file taxes because they may not have worked or may not have made enough money. Even if they didn't say they filed a tax return, it's going to ask them how much did you make from working, because they may have worked. All right, if they did file a tax return, they'll be able to actually utilize the IRS data retrieval tool also. And once again, to use the IRS data retrieval tool, you need that FSA ID. All right. Then we get to the questions that mirrors the parent section about combat pay, education credits. Remember, the education credits the parents pay, tax deductions for supplemental employment plans, untaxed portions of IRA distributions. I don't think that applies to any students whatsoever, okay, or high school students. That is. Then, once again, students, child support received or paid because they're divorced, probably not applicable. Cooperative education program offered by a college or federal work need-based program. All right. So remember that federal work study job the students got? Okay. So if they actually work and say they made $2,000 in work study, they worked at Wendy's and made $6,000, so their income was $8,000 total. You will report here that they made $2,000 from work study. So when they look at the $8,000 total income, they subtract the $2,000 work study and only look at $6,000. That's another benefit of work study. Okay. Cooperative program, that's when they take time off from college to actually apply what they're learning in the classroom in a work setting. And usually think about engineers, all right? So the money you earn from that, you put in here so they can take it out of the equation because co-op programs are temporary, they're not permanent. And then remember that 529 plan? The bottom says money received or paid on your behalf, for example, bills not reported elsewhere on this form. This includes money that you receive from a parent or other person whose financial information is not reported on this form and is not part of the legal child support agreement, all right? So my niece, when she goes to college, she will report how much I gave her, but this is for 2018, all right? So she's a freshman next year, 2020. When she does her FAFSA in October of 2020, that's going to be for the 2021-2022 year. They're going to ask for information in 2019, all right? I didn't give her anything in 2019. So she actually won't have to report the 529 distributions that I gave to her until her FAFSA for her junior year, all right? Kind of is in the side, all right? Then student, what is your total current balance of cash, savings, and checking accounts? All right, what is the net worth of your investments, including real estate? If a student has a NUTMA or NUGMA, the parent is the custodian and the student will be the owner, okay? If a student has a trust fund, even though there's maybe an age restriction as to when he can touch the money, it's considered an asset of the student, okay? And then you may get to a section where you have like a check that says there's an error here. This is to verify that you did indeed mean to put that information in there. Oftentimes, this is also where you realize that if you manually enter the information, that you put down that you pay the same in taxes as you made from working, all right? Or you inadvertently put that you're married to students when in reality they're single. So that was an error because they entered the wrong information. If everything's correct, just click check for errors for you to be able to go through. Then you get a summary of all the information that you put in the FAFSA. Go through it. All right. Take a quick look through it. You scroll down through it to make sure the information is entered correctly. If it's not, you can actually just click on one of those links and it takes you directly to that section. And you notice once again on the top, all the boxes have been checked because that means those tabs have been completed. If I need to go back to the school selection, I can just click on the school selection tab on the top and it takes you direct to the school selection, and I can add a college or take one out if I need it. Then you have to sign, all right? We need a signature from one of the students and a signature from one of the parents, all right? Even though both parents may have been asked for their information in the FAFSA. They're signing because they're saying everything I provided here is true. I'm not committing fraud, and any money that the student receives will be used for college expenses only, all right? So they ask for a student signature and ask for a parent signature, okay? You click on that, and if the student logged in with their FSA ID, they don't have to re-enter the username and password. They just click on submit, on sign, and it's signed. If the parent didn't use the IRS data retrieval tool, they'll have to use their FSA ID to sign it. Otherwise, they just click on sign. That's the section says that I agree see everything above here. And then if for some reason the parents weren't able to get an FAFSA ID, they can actually print out a signature page, print it out, sign it, and mail it, right? But when you do a signature page, it takes a long time for it to get matched up to the FAFSA. I think like 4 to 8 weeks. They say 2 to 3 weeks, but I found it to be more like 4 to 8. So that's why my recommendation, if you have an FAFSA ID, submit it that way. Even though some parents will have to submit a signed, print out signature page and mail it in, we'll use the date it was submitted for consideration for the MAP grant, so that saves their place in line. Okay, even though the signature page may come in much later. All right. One thing with the FAFSA ID, if the parents can use the same ID to sign multiple FAFSAs, it does not expire. Your password does not have to be changed every 18 months as it was before. That's been changed. All right. And you will have to provide an email or a mobile phone when you create an FAFSA ID. And the reason you do that is in case you forget your password, you can reset it through your mobile phone or through your email. If you answer the security questions to reset your FAFSA ID and you're successful in resetting it using security questions, you have to wait 30 minutes before you can use the FAFSA ID. So by all means, please use your email or your phone to reset your FAFSA ID. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for 30 minutes before you can use it again. All right? And then you're going to get a confirmation page. Near the top is something called data release number. Be conscious of that number. That number is what colleges use to pull the students' FAFSA information, so it kind of expedites the process. In the middle, and it didn't appear here because of the way I use this demo site here. If you have multiple kids in college, you get one opportunity right there, and then it says a paragraph in the middle says, do you have another child in college, and do you wish to transfer all the parental information to another FAFSA? You click that button, and all the parental information, like demographic information, income and tax information, will be transferred over to another FAFSA, right? So it expedites the process. But if you close this off and don't do that, you have to re-enter everything in another FAFSA. All right, and then you get that expected family contribution. Now this one says 99999. That's because I was using the demo site. This is what they think this is what the Department of Education thinks student and their family can provide towards their college expenses. So once again, say the cost of attendance is this much. Say the family can afford this much. Whatever the gap is, that's what financially is supposed to fill. By filling out this FAFSA, the college will use this information to fill out how we're going to meet this, how we will fill this gap. Is it going to be grants and scholarships? Is it going to be work studies? Is it going to be student loans? Well, we expect the parents to pay more out of pocket. And that's where the parents and family have to get together to kind of make a decision as to what makes sense for them. You know, academic fit, social fit, but then the financial fit piece comes in play too. All right? And I put this up here just so you have an idea as to how the process works. You complete the FAFSA, student will get that student aid report, which is a summary of information submitted. Then, if they get selective verification, they will have to complete the process. Otherwise, they will be stuck in the verification process. And then they review the award letter. They get award letters they get from the colleges. All right? If there's some extraneous circumstances, say the income from 2018 is very different from 2019, you need to let the college office know. Okay? You need to let the financial aid office know. There may be a petition process or some form you have to fill out. They may ask for additional documentation. So when they compose that award letter, they take that into account and maybe perhaps adjust it. I mean, we've had situations where parents have lost jobs, where they've been laid off or been told they've been laid off really late in the process. There's been some serious medical issues like high expenses. You need to let the college office know because you have to provide the information they ask. So if the 2018 information, you have to provide that. But if that's different from 2019 and it's drastic, you need to let the college office know so they can redo that award letter. Now, the other thing with award letters, just between us, if you have award letters from comparable colleges like private colleges, and the colleges are somewhat similar, and one college will give you a nicer deal, go talk to the other colleges. Hey, could you do a little, my students debating between your college and that college. This is what they offered us. Could you kind of help make it more comparable? Sometimes they do that, If it's, a couple $1,000 here or there, they'll discount your tuition a little bit. Now, if you go in there and say, hey, can you decrease your tuition by $40,000? They're going to laugh at you. Say, no, we can't do that, all right? But do that before you accept the offer of admission. After you accept the offer of admission, they know they got you, all right? And then you tell the college, where you're going to go, complete any subsequent processes, and do the FAFSA every single year, all right? Now, we provided this information up here. These are numbers where, and this is for the whole state of Illinois, the student can sign up, they text their name to one of these numbers. We'll ask what year you're in college, so we know what year you're in. And then when the FAFSA opens up every October, we'll send you a text saying, hey, the FAFSA is available. And then when we're about to suspend the state grant, the day or two before, we'll send you a text saying we're about to suspend the MAP grant, so you can get on and fill out the FAFSA. But also, if a student has questions about their FAFSA, they can text their questions to us, and we will answer. We have a real person at the other end, okay? So we do send some periodic tests about applying for FAFSA, the MAP suspension date, but answering your questions, especially over the summer between senior year and freshman year in college. So parents, you can also do this too if you want, in case you want to have questions. Then, of course, you can always call me. I have a few business cards that I'd be happy to share with Sue. Questions. I went through it a little bit fast because I thought it was going to take longer. For some reason, we're doing okay. Yes, sir.
So the issue says that one for kids and one for students.
The FSA ID?
FSA ID.
But
the form is only one.
Correct. So for those of you on the phone, the question was, that I had told the parent here that a parent has to create an FSA ID and the student has to have an FSA ID. Yes, that is correct. And there's only one FAFSA per student. Okay? Your FSA ID is just your signature. This is basically your identity for purposes of the FAFSA. But each student will do their own FAFSA, even though you may have twins that everything's identical. Each one has their own FAFSA because each student will have a limited amount of federal aid eligibility. And so you want to make sure that, if some reason one exhausts faster than the other, you want to keep that aware. But you use the same FSA to sign both FAFSAs, but only one FAFSA per student. Okay? Any other questions?
Money under minor children's account is counted as parents' asset or not?
Okay, so I think the question was about the UTMA, the Universal Transfer to Minors Act. I think that's what they may be talking about. For that, it's a student asset. It's the parents are the custodians, but it's a student asset because what happens with the UTMAs and the UGMAs, the Universal Gift to Minors Act, those are portfolios that are set up by the parents, and they put stocks, bonds, cash, other types of investments in it, and once students of age, it becomes their money, becomes theirs. Okay? It's irrevocable. So if a parent sets a NUMA, they cannot cancel it. Because theoretically, a student can sue their parent for taking their money. I don't mean to laugh, that's the truth.
If a very selected school asks whether you intend to apply for financial aid or not, in student college education, what should be answered, yes or no? Our test is about $55,000. What is the difference in admission process for these different answers? Will the answer yes affect the admission decision? In the case of ESP, it's $55,000.
Okay. So, do they all hear you, or should I repeat it? Okay. So I'm going to paraphrase it. So basically, the question was that there's an application that asks, will you be applying for financial aid? Yes or no? Does the ESC of the parent matter in regards to the admission decision? Potentially it can, because some colleges are now what's called need aware, where they may say a student who's borderline, who they know they're not going to give a lot of institutional aid, and say the parent EFC is only like $5,000. The college itself costs $60,000, but they only can come up with like $30,000 worth of financial aid. Because there's limits on how much students can borrow from the Department of Ed. There's limits on the grants. So say, even though the EFC of the parents is $5,000 and there's going to be a gap of another $20,000, they know the students are not going to go, they may not admit the student because they say they're not going to be able to afford our institution. Okay? I think that's the way it works in need-aware colleges. If you have a high EFC, and you say you plan to apply for financial aid, I don't think that has a bearing, but you want to ask the college. Ask the admissions office if that makes a difference for them or not. Now, if you have say you have an EFC of $55,000, the college thinks that you will be able to provide $55,000 of support. And then that means if the college costs $60,000, they may only give you $5,000 worth of financial aid. And the $55,000 comes from your pocket. All right? Now, if the student is very bright, they may try to sweeten the pot by throwing some scholarships at the students, which are not need-based. All right? So maybe instead of $55,000 out of pocket, you may end up paying $45,000 out of pocket. Now, as a parent, is that okay? You know, that's the decision you have to make. What I would recommend that you do, though, each college has something called a net price calculator, all right? You enter your EFC into the net price calculator and answer whatever other questions they ask, and then you'll see what you may be able to expect to get from that institution in the form of institutional aid to see what your out-of-pocket cost is going to be. I found, for example, the one I like a lot is Harvard, because it's so easy. And the reason it's so easy is because Harvard's got a huge endowment. The bigger the endowment, the better, the sweeter the packages, all right? And you can, it's kind of like when you do your tax return, you see a ticker in the upper right-hand corner, and as you enter the numbers, that ticker stays the same or decreases. It tells you what you're going to pay out of pocket. Each college has one of those. Many selective, highly selective institutions have a no-loan policy, which means they're going to meet your financial need with everything but loans. Financial need, not the cost of attendance. So if you have EFC of $55,000 and the college costs $75,000, you only have a financial need of $20,000. Okay? All right? Parent Plus loans, that's the parents taking out the loan, not the students, the parents. All right? There's no limit to the Parent Plus. Well, technically it is. There's a formula. Say the cost of attendance is this much. Say the students can afford this much. You get some grants. You get some work study. You get some subsidized loans. You get unsubsidized loans. The remaining gap is the limit for the Parent Plus loan. I've seen Parent Plus loans anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 plus per year. You have to ask yourself, are you comfortable with that? Do you have other children coming up the pipe that you will need to borrow on their behalf too? How close are you to retirement? Does that mean you have to work longer to retire because you have to pay off these Parent Plus loans? Student loans are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. They're stay with you forever. Well, until you die. Well, you have to die, really. Basically. I don't mean to be morbid or anything, but that's really the only way to get out of it. Sometimes if you're completely and totally disabled with no prospect whatsoever of ever working in your life completely, they may forgive them. Other than that, they're not. Okay? So please borrow wisely. I tell families only borrow what you absolutely need and no more. EFC is the expected family contribution. So when we look at the income and assets that's asked in the FAFSA, that people put in, the FAFSA will calculate that for a student. Say your EFC is this, the expected family contribution is this. It's a number. It doesn't mean this is the most you pay, the least you pay. It's a number that says this is what the Department of Ed thinks the family can contribute to the child's education. Correct, right. So when you get to the confirmation page, it will be right there where it says 9999. The only reason it says 9999 because this is a demo site, but otherwise it will have an actual number. Say again?
It will give you that number.
It will give you that number at the end, and it's conditional, assuming everything you put in there is correct. Okay? So because if you manually entered your income and you said you only made $10,000, your EFC is going to be zero, right? But if you say, I'm sorry, I forgot a zero. I actually made $100,000. Your EFC is going to go up because you have much more ability to pay for college. Okay.
IMSA senior, when are IMSA seniors freshmen in college or brother be a senior? Is there a button on his FAFSA form to add to get her an FFA ID, or do we need to fill out a completely separate FAFSA form for her?
Okay. So the student in college is going to be a senior?
The brother's going to be a senior.
Going to be a senior, and the other one's going to start. So they're going to have two in college, a freshman and a senior. It doesn't matter whose FAFSA they start. At the end, they'll say, do you want to transfer information to another FAFSA? So you say yes. So say they did it for the high school student. They click yes, and it's going to open up a new FAFSA, and then the senior would have to enter their FSA ID to bring up their information, so then they can all click renewal, and then the student's demographic information would be populated. You would just didn't have to enter the income information of the student.
But so even though you click that, so that the information goes over to your second.
The parent information.
Okay, they still have to go in and get an FSA ID for that second student.
The senior already has an FSA ID because I would assume they've been doing a FAFSA every year.
Correct, but the younger student, I guess.
Yeah, correct. So
still need to go in and get an FSA ID.
yes. Otherwise, you at the beginning I mentioned. If for some reason you don't have an FSA ID, you can log in and got a lot of spots. Okay, there's that. I am a parent, prepare a student for click on that, you can do that. You can get an FAFSA ID later, okay, but you do need one eventually. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to create an FAFSA ID, depending on how fast you type and how quickly you answer the security questions.
I want to know if they include assets from a business account, but it depends on
No.
the size.
Okay, so, I'm sorry to cut you off. The question was, do you include assets in a business account? Let me break it down into two different ways. Who is the owner of the assets? If the owner of the assets are the parents, you report as parental assets. If the owner of the assets is the business, say like a limited liability corporation, an LLC, no, because remember, small businesses, you now report the value of small businesses if they have 100 or fewer full-time employees, assuming the business is family-owned and has 100 or fewer employees, so it depends on who owns the assets. Now, I mentioned how you don't report the house in which you live. You also do not report the value of a farm if you live and own and operate it, okay? So that doesn't count as a business either if you live on it and operate it. Then we may have some farmers out there.
Okay, so you submit your FAFSA, and then you notice a mistake. You revise the FAFSA after submitting it.
If there was a mistake, yes, you can go back and make. Say again, if there's a mistake with assets, okay, it depends on what you define as a mistake, all right? If you forgot to include some assets, yes, you made a mistake. You go back in there and include those assets. I've had a parent say to me, hey, well, the stock market took a dive. I filled out my FAFSA last month. Can I go back and correct it? No, you may not, because there was not a mistake when you created the FAFSA. And then the mom got mad at me, like, well, what do you mean? Why can't I? Went down. And I go, well, the Department of Ed is going to say, well, by that logic, if it goes up, you need to go back in and say, hey, guys, I got more money. I can afford more for college. You know, that's not a mistake. But if you forgot something, or you miscounted something, or you added an extra zero, you truly made a mistake, absolutely go back and edit that information. Yeah.
Okay, so what about loss incurred in the business?
Loss incurred in the business.
You got a loss
Yeah.
in the business.
Sure. So the adjusted gross income takes into account business gains and business losses. So it's already incorporated in that. Kind of like rental property. Some people say, hey, you know, my rental property losing me money. Well, you're reporting that in your tax return. It's already taken into account in your adjusted gross income. So it's already accounted for. By the way, I'm not a tax expert. I just do a lot of these questions. So.
Yeah, this is the last one. For that money under minor children's account question, I mean, the minor child is student. That money's in the account. No, this is the student in the parent.
Okay.
So that money is counted.
So for NUTMA or NUGMA, it's only a student asset if the owner of it is a student who's still not the FAFSA. So if it's a minor kid, you do not report it as an asset because the parents are the custodians. The owner is that minor kid. When that minor kid, the little one, becomes a senior, then they report that as an asset. Okay? If that's what they're asking. Now, say the parent is on a checking account with the student because the student's a minor, so it's the kid and the parent on a checking account. That's a dual asset. Half of it's reported as a parental asset, the other half is reported as a student asset. Okay? So parents, be careful what you put your name on. I've had some situations where parents co-sign a mortgage for a brother or sister. Well, they have to report half of the equity in that home because that's the second property. Yeah, I know, it gets a little convoluted. But it's all trying to ascertain what is the ability of this family to pay for college. That's really what it's all getting down to. All right. Good here? Okay, great. Well, if you do have questions, you can, I guess always the front. You can always give us a call or text your questions directly at that number. Yeah, or you can email me. My name is Abel, A-B-E-L. I don't have my information up here. abel.montoya, M-O-N-T-O-Y-A, @illinois.gov. That's my email address.
Who's our local rep for Aurora? Anna?
You have two, Anna Dutton and then Martha Gutierrez.
They're great.
Yeah.
You call
Hello?
them, you pick up the phone, and they know the
Yes.
stuff.
Hello, can you guys hear us on the phone?
Yes, I can hear you on the phone.
Okay, so there are questions on the chat. I don't know, did you guys address those questions? Because people on the phone, they have been asking questions on the chat.
Yeah, we asked all the questions on the chat. Is there another one?
Yeah, the counselor said that they asked all the questions on the chat. Is there another question?
So did you address all the questions on the chat?
Yes, we did. All the ones that we saw in the chat have been answered.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys. All right, guys, well, have a great evening.
Thank you, Abel.
Oh, yeah, I do have my business card with me. If you guys are here, I can give them to you.
What's your address again?
Should I be on her? Oh, not just one? That's good though, like, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what their question was.
For my client, it's you, after,
But this is the college in North Prepaid plan still.
Okay.
You want to get the report, instead of FAFSA reporting about.
correct, because I have the others. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.